Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The blade of the silver letter opener pressed cold and sharp against the pulse of my throat, but the hand holding it didn't tremble. It was steady, terrifyingly precise, and belonged to a man who had murdered 3 generals before breakfast in the original novel. Who sent you? The voice was low, a velvet baritone that wrapped around my spine like a constrictor snake. Duke Cassian Blackwood, the tyrant of the North, loomed over me, pinning me to his mahogany desk. His eyes, the color of frozen violets, searched mine for deceit. I couldn't speak. I was hyperventilating. But my mind, that treacherous, loud, panicked traitor, was screaming. Oh God, oh God. He's going to kill me. I'm just a secretary. I just wanted to organize his calendar. Why is he so handsome this close up? Look at those eyelashes. Focus, Elian. You're going to die in chapter 3 because you spilled coffee on his ledger. Wait, no, he smells like sandalwood and blood? Is that blood? I don't want to die a virgin in a villain's study. Cassian's eyes widened. The pressure of the blade vanished instantly. He took a step back, looking at me not with the fury of a killer, but with the bewildered expression of a man who had just heard a ghost tell a dirty joke. Virgin, he repeated, his voice laced with genuine confusion. My mouth hung open. I hadn't said a word. To understand how I ended up nearly skewered by the main antagonist of the dark fantasy novel Crown of Thorns, we have to rewind 3 weeks. I was Elian Vance in my previous life, a overworked corporate accountant who died of a caffeine-induced heart attack. I woke up as Elian Vance. A coincidence that felt like a cosmic prank. But here, Elian Vance wasn't an accountant. He was a nobody, a background character. Specifically, the 3rd assistant secretary to the Blackwood family, a lineage of hereditary villains destined to be wiped out by the Golden Prince in the grand finale. My plan was simple. Keep my head down, embezzle enough gold to buy a cottage in the countryside, and flee before the Night of Long Knives occurred in 2 years. I thought I was being clever. I thought I was invisible. The Blackwood estate was a Gothic nightmare of towering spires and endless corridors draped in shadow. The family consisted of 3 siblings, each more dangerous than the last. There was Lyra, the poison mistress, Valerius, the sadistic knight, and Cassian, the head of the house, the grand strategist, the monster under the bed. For 3 weeks, I did my job. I filed papers. I avoided eye contact. I made tea. And all the while, I entertained myself with my internal monologue. It was my safe space. I critiqued the decor, I mentally corrected their battle strategies, and yes, I occasionally objectified the villains because, moral compass aside, the author of Crown of Thorns knew how to write attractive psychopaths. I didn't know about the curse of the Blackwoods. It wasn't mentioned in the book. A plot hole. Or perhaps it was something the author intended to reveal later. The Blackwoods were sensitive to magic. Specifically, the magic of the soul. And because my soul was from another world, vibrating on a frequency that didn't belong in this reality, I was a broadcasting tower. Every thought I had was being projected directly into their minds whenever I was within 20 feet of them. The realization didn't hit me until the morning of the incident in the study. I was organizing the chaotic mess of papers on Cassian's desk. He was sitting in his high-backed leather chair, staring out the window, brooding. Typical villain behavior. He looked so lonely, I thought, unconsciously adjusting a stack of death warrants. And tired. Those dark circles are brutal. He needs a hydrating mask and 8 hours of sleep. Maybe if he wasn't plotting regicide, he could catch a nap. Although, if he knew that the second prince is actually planning to ambush his shipment at the docks tonight, he'd be even more stressed. Shame. That shipment cost a fortune. Cassian stiffened. He spun his chair around so fast the wood creaked. What did you say? My lord, I asked, clutching a quill to my chest. I didn't speak. He narrowed his eyes. You said the second prince is at the docks. I certainly did not, my lord. I know nothing of politics. Please don't look at me like that. Your eyes are literally glowing. It's terrifying. And hot. But mostly terrifying. If I just stand very still, maybe he'll lose interest like a T-Rex. Cassian stood up slowly. He walked toward me, a predator stalking a particularly confused gazelle. That was when he pinned me. That was when he put the blade to my throat. And that was when he heard about my virginity. The silence that followed his question was heavy enough to crush bones. I squeaked. My lord, you are not a spy, Cashin stated, though it sounded more like he was testing the words. He lowered the letter opener, but didn't step away. He was close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his broad chest. Spies do not think about hydrating masks. He heard that. My mind reeled. Wait. He heard everything? Oh God. The shipment. The ambush. The T-Rex comment. Cashin's lips twitched. A micro-expression. If I hadn't been staring at his mouth, I would have missed it. Yes. The T-Rex comment. Whatever that is. I turned the color of a ripe tomato. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. I wanted to transmigrate again, preferably into a rock. How? I whispered. You project, Cashin said, leaning back against the desk, crossing his arms. The movement strained the fabric of his black silk shirt. Loudly. My siblings and I have been hearing a buzzing for weeks. A commentary track. We thought we were going mad. But today you were specific. He stepped closer again, his voice dropping an octave. You know about the shipment. You know about the second prince. You know things you cannot possibly know, Elian Vance. Because I've read the book, I thought desperately. Because you're a character. And you're going to die if you don't move your archers to the eastern ridge, Cashin flinched. His hand shot out, gripping my chin, tilting my head up. His gaze was intense, piercing. The eastern ridge? What? Because the prince has a mage hidden in the cliffs, I screamed in my head. He's going to trigger a landslide. Cashin froze. The information settled behind his eyes. He released me abruptly, turning to the heavy oak door. Valerius, he roared. The door flew open. His brother, the knight, stood there, looking bored but lethal. Yes, brother? I could hear you shouting from the hallway. And I can hear the little mouse screaming in his head about a landslide. Prepare the men, Cashin ordered, his voice icy, a general commanding his army. Move the archers to the eastern ridge. Scout the cliffs for a mage. Kill anyone you find. Valerius grinned, a shark-like expression that promised violence. He glanced at me, winking. Good catch, mouse. He left. I was alone with Cashin again. My legs gave out. I sank into the plush carpet. I just changed the plot, I thought, horrified. I interfered. I'm supposed to be a nobody. You are hardly a nobody, Cashin said softly. He offered me a hand. His palm was calloused, warm. Get up, Elian. We have much to discuss. Life changed rapidly after that. I was promoted. I was no longer the third assistant secretary. I was the personal strategist to the Duke. This was a fancy title for human spoiler alert. They moved my quarters. I was now sleeping in the room adjacent to Cashin's, connected by a single door. The official reason was security. The unofficial reason, which I deduced from Lyra's teasing thoughts, turns out, I could sometimes hear them too if the emotion was strong enough, was that Cashin found my mental noise grounding. It was hell. Imagine trying to work for your boss while knowing he can hear every intrusive thought you have. Don't look at his hands. Don't look at his hands. Okay, looking at the map. The rebellion starts in the southern district. Tell him about the grain shortage. Oh, he's rolling up his sleeves. Those forearms should be illegal. The grain shortage. Elian, Cashin said from across the map table, not looking up, though the tips of his ears were red. Right? Yes. The south. I stammered, pointing at the map. Weeks turned into months. The dynamic of the house shifted. The Blackwoods, painted as irredeemable monsters in the book, were simply people. Damaged, violent, protective people. They were fighting a corrupt monarchy, trying to survive in a world that wanted them dead. I became their secret weapon. I prevented 3 assassinations, secured 2 trade deals by knowing the rivals' secrets, and accidentally revolutionized their public relations campaign. Stop beheading people in the square, it's tacky. Just imprison them. It looks more merciful, and you can interrogate them later. But the closer I got to Cashin, the harder it was to control the other thoughts. The soft ones. One rainy evening, we were in the library. The fire was dying down. Cashin was reading a report, and I was curled up in an armchair, ostensibly reading a book, but actually watching the firelight play across his sharp features. He's going to die, The thought drifted through my mind, melancholic and heavy. Asterisk, the climax is coming. The Golden Prince will summon the Holy Dragon. Even with my help, can he survive that? I don't want him to die. I don't want to lose him. I think I love him. Asterisk. The silence in the room shattered. Cashin dropped his book. It hit the floor with a thud. I froze, realizing what I had just broadcasted. Panic, cold and sharp, flooded my chest. Asterisk, no. No, take it back. Think about math. Think about taxes. 2 plus 2 is 4. Asterisk. Elian. I have to go. I blurted out, scrambling out of the chair. I forgot to polish the cat. We don't have a cat. Cashin was in front of me in a heartbeat. He blocked my path to the door. He wasn't angry. He looked devastated. Hopeful. You think I'm going to die, he said. It wasn't a question. You're the villain, I whispered, my voice trembling. The narrative demands it. Screw the narrative, Cashin growled. He took a step closer, crowding me against the bookshelves. You said you loved me. I squeezed my eyes shut. Asterisk, I didn't say it. I thought it. There's a difference. Asterisk. There is no difference to me, he murmured. His hand came up, cupping my cheek, his thumb brushing over my cheekbone. For months, I have listened to you. I have heard your fear, your wit, your ridiculous obsession with my forearms. I groaned. Kill me now. But mostly, he continued, his voice dropping to a rough whisper, I have heard your truth. Everyone lies to me, Elian. My court, my allies, even my siblings sometimes. But you cannot lie. You are the only honest thing in my world. He leaned down, his forehead resting against mine. Do not worry about the dragon. Do not worry about the prince. I will burn the world before I let them touch you. But I need to know, was it just a thought? Or do you mean it? I opened my eyes. Violet eyes stared into mine, vulnerable and fierce. I mean it, I thought, projecting it as loud as I could. I love you, you catastrophic, beautiful idiot. Cashin smiled. A real smile, one that reached his eyes and transformed his face. Good. He kissed me then. It wasn't the gentle kiss of a hero. It was the possessive, consuming kiss of a villain who had finally found the one thing he refused to lose. It tasted of wine and fire and promise. But the plot, as it always does, caught up with us. The night of long knives arrived early. It was the winter solstice ball. The Golden Prince, Prince Eric, had arrived with his entourage. The atmosphere was tense, the air thick with magic and malice. I stood by Cashin's side, dressed in a suit of midnight blue velvet that he had insisted I wear. Something is wrong, my mind buzzed. Asterisk, the music is too loud. The guards are in the wrong positions. The plot. It's changed again, asterisk. I scanned the room. There, in the shadows of the balcony. A flash of silver. Not a weapon. A mirror. A signal. They aren't attacking from the outside, I realized, the horror turning my blood to ice. They're already inside. Cashin. I didn't think it. I screamed it. I threw myself in front of him just as the chandelier above us exploded. Shards of crystal rained down like daggers. A bolt of holy magic, meant for Cashin's heart, slammed into my shoulder. The pain was blinding, white-hot agony that tore a scream from my throat. I hit the floor. The world blurred. Elian. Cashin's voice was a roar of pure, unadulterated rage. Chaos erupted. I could hear steel clashing against steel. I could feel the floor vibrating with magic. But mostly, I could hear Cashin's mind. Usually, I couldn't hear him. But in his fury, his mental barriers shattered. Asterisk, kill them. Kill them all. If he dies, I will tear this kingdom apart brick by brick. I will slaughter the prince. I will burn the gods themselves. Asterisk. Cashin. I gasped, trying to reach for him. He was there instantly, lifting me into his arms. His face was a mask of terror. Stay with me. Do not close your eyes. Valerius. The healer. The Golden Prince stepped through the crowd, his sword glowing with righteous light. It is over, Blackwood. Surrender. Your dark reign ends tonight. Cashin looked up. He didn't look at the sword. He looked at the prince with dead, empty eyes. You heard him, Cashin said. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Shadows began to bleed from the walls, writhing like living things. He is a villain's accomplice, the prince declared. He is my heart, Cashin snarled. He's going to use the forbidden art, I realized, my consciousness fading. Asterisk, he's going to sacrifice his life force to summon the abyss. He'll die. Asterisk. No, I projected, forcing every ounce of my will into the thought. Asterisk, Cashin, don't. Use the pillars. The structural weakness in the ballroom. The third pillar on the left. Bring the roof down on them. Not yourself. Asterisk. Cashin froze. He heard me. Even through the pain, he heard me. He looked at the pillar. He looked at the prince. A cruel, calculated smirk returned to his lips. As you wish, my love, he whispered. He raised his hand. Not in a summoning of dark magic, but in a simple blast of kinetic force. He struck the third pillar. The structural integrity of the ancient ballroom failed. The ceiling above the prince and his guards groaned and collapsed in a thunderous avalanche of stone and timber. The golden prince scrambled back, his formation broken, his advantage lost in the dust and debris. Cashin didn't wait. He turned, carrying me through the chaos, surrounded by his siblings who carved a path through the remaining guards. I woke up 3 days later in the master bedroom. My shoulder was bandaged. The pain was a dull ache. Outside the window, snow was falling. Cashin was asleep in a chair next to the bed, his hand gripping mine so tight his knuckles were white. He looked exhausted, his hair messy, his shirt rumpled. He stayed, I thought, a warm fuzzy feeling spreading through my chest. Asterisk, he looks terrible. I love him. Asterisk. Cashin's eyes snapped open. I am not terrible, he rasped, his voice thick with sleep. He squeezed my hand. I am vigilant. You look like a raccoon, I said aloud, smiling weakly. And you, he said, standing up and leaning over me, brushing the hair from my forehead, are grounded. You are never jumping in front of a spell again. Do you hear me? If you want to be a strategist, you stay behind the line. I saved you, I argued. You almost destroyed me, he corrected, his eyes intense. When you fell, the silence in my head was louder than any scream. I cannot go back to the silence, Elian. I won't. He kissed my forehead, then my nose, then my lips. Gentle, reverent. The prince. I asked against his mouth. Retreated. Humiliated, Cashin murmured. We have declared independence. The North is ours. The story is no longer theirs to write. He pulled back, resting his hand on my chest, right over my heart. Now, he said, a wicked glint returning to his eyes. About that thought you had before the chandelier fell. Something about a honeymoon in the Southern Isles. I flushed. I did not think that. You did, he grinned. And I think it's a brilliant strategy. And that is how the nobody tamed the villain, not with a sword, but with a voice that could not be silenced. If you enjoyed seeing Elian rewrite destiny and steal a duke's heart, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you choose a hero who sacrifices you for the world, or a villain who would sacrifice the world for you? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt, masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art, 2 men, BL, Yaoi, man 1. Duke Cashin, tall, broad shoulders, black silk shirt unbuttoned at top, sharp jawline, glowing violet eyes, messy black hair, expression of desperate protectiveness and rage, holding man 2 in his arms. Man 2. Elian, slim build, wearing torn midnight blue velvet suit, blood on shoulder, pale skin, soft features, looking up weakly. Background is a crumbling ballroom. Falling debris, dust particles, magical light effects, dramatic shadows, cinematic lighting, emotional atmosphere, intense eye contact.